Welcome to the Dietitian Business Podcast. I'm Maggie Doherty, your host, dietitian, and business coach. In today's episode, we meet with Anna Strano of Strano Nutrition, who just started her own private practice that's fully virtual, where she niches down into perimenopause and women's health. She's been a dietitian for 15 years in outpatient, and she just started her practice 6 months ago, but she's stuck feeling like she's not quite ready to launch and she's doubting herself. So in this episode, we talk about what's holding her back and what does she want to do now that she gets to make all the rules. We go through how to structure a session, how to determine what time length to do for initials and follow-ups, and what the flow looks like. We also dive deep into how to determine what to charge for your session rates and what your website needs to look like before you launch. So, if you are about to start a private practice, thinking of starting a private practice, and doubting yourself or looking for reassurance, this is the episode for you. Tune in. I think you're really going to like this one. Hey, Anna. Good morning.
Good morning, Maggie. How are you?
I'm good. I am so excited to hang out and talk to you about your business today.
Me too. Looking forward to it.
Have you had business coaching before?
I have not.
Okay. Cool. I think I saw in your intake that I guess we'll get into in a little bit, but that you may get business coaching from a client, kind of like an exchange of services. So I wasn't sure if that had happened yet.
So no, not yet. And I'm actually hesitating on that a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm happy to explain that whenever.
absolutely. Um, well, let's get into it. Tell me a little bit about your practice and where you're at right now.
Yeah, sure. So I've been a dietitian for over 15 years, outpatient, weight management, oncology. Um, so a lot of experience with one-on-one counseling. And then I bought an LLC in January called Strano Nutrition. 'Cause my last name is Strano, so
Mhm.
Strano Nutrition, just to because I couldn't. There were so many options. I'm like, let's keep it simple. We can always rename later.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so that was back in January, and then I was like doing EMR research, and I landed on Practice Picnic. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's not really as popular as Simple Practice or Healthy, um, but it's the cheapest and
Okay.
it's very bare bones. So I landed on that because, again, really at the startup line, don't have any clients.
Mhm.
Um, Again, was thinking, okay, I'll invest maybe in a different EMR, one that has more options once the ball gets rolling.
Mhm.
And I've been working on a website, so I have hired someone to make a website for me. Um, and based on my research, a lot of people say like you don't have to worry about your website, but you should have a landing space because
Mhm.
don't want to do social media. I don't, so I have to have another place to land. And I think like as a consumer, I like to go on people's websites and see like what's going on. Um, so I've been working on that since like January, February. Where are we at? We're in June. So, just been a lot of back and forth, and then some life things happen on my end, some life things
Mhm.
happen on their end. And um, but I'm really ready to launch. I've been networking with some doctors in the area. They're like, "Do you have a card?" And I'm like, "Not yet." "Do you have a
Mhm.
website?" And I'm like, "Almost."
Uh-huh.
So and they're very open. They're like, as soon as you get that, like, I'm happy to put your cards out. I'm happy to refer to you. So it's really just me holding up the process, I guess, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, and the website's just been a little bit, it's like, how does it look? Do I like these colors? Does this copy look good? Is it, grammatically correct? Am I getting across what I want to get across to my potential client?
Mhm.
And right now we're down to like the nitty gritty. So I'm like, oh, an apostrophe here. Oh, we forgot, a word here. I think overall I'm happy with the content, and I'm pretty much ready. Honestly, I
Mhm.
wanted to launch last week, but I,
Yeah.
there were still some little tweaks, but at the same time, I told them, I'm like, you know what, let's just launch, and then we can always perfect it after. I think it's good enough. Um, People can get to me through it. So again, I'm pretty much ready on that in that end. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. There is a Have you heard of James Clear before, the author of Atomic Habits?
Yes, I read that book.
Okay, I am obsessed with that book, but one of my favorite things that I learned in that book is the kinda concept or philosophy of start before you're ready.
Right.
And essentially, you wanna get a project 60% figured out and then launch. In the remaining 40%, you figure out as you go. If you wait for things to be 100% perfect, you're never going to launch your business. And one thing I did last summer is when I launched my kinda business coaching group coaching program, I followed that same philosophy and, like, I it was a 12-week course, and I think I had the first 3 days built out, launched it, and then, like, figured it out as I went, and it was one of the best things that I did business-wise. Because if I woulda waited till I built it all out, I don't think I ever would've started it. And same thing with my second business I started and didn't have business cards. I had the website up, but, like, um, I don't think you'll ever be fully ready to launch.
Yeah, that's kind of, I've am trying to accept that. Um, and I think, I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because I think that one of my concerns is like, I'm thinking too far ahead. Like, how do I structure the session? What is it going to look like? And am I building out a program? Like I have all these questions that I think will only get answered once I'm seeing clients and
Yeah.
understanding like what that all is looking like. But I just feel a little bit unprepared, even if, I'm talking to someone and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And, "Well, how does that work?" Or, "How long is your program? What does it look like?" And I'm like, "I don't really have those answers for you because I am not sure how I wanna structure it."
Yeah.
Um, so and I think, I am ready to launch, let's just do it and figure it out. I feel a little bit, like my confidence is lacking in the actual one-on-ones, which, of course, I've had so much experience, right? But, like, when you're
Yeah.
working for, like, a hospital or a clinic, it's completely different. Like, there's no pressure in a sense because insurance is covering it. I'm not taking insurance. I would like to charge, and that's another question I have,
Uh-huh.
as something that's, definitely makes it worth my time and my value. And so I just wanna make sure that people walk away from a session being like, "That was worth it." You
Mhm.
know? So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm ready as far as 60%. I'm probably 80%.
Yeah. What's holding you back right now to launch? So it sounds like one thing is confidence in session and session structure and not being able to answer every question fully.
Yes. So
Right.
launching the website, the only thing holding me back is just again grammatical errors. So any day now, just let's fix those and let's launch. And then once, I'm picturing like, okay, a client calls me, I put her on the schedule, and what does our initial look like? Like, I don't even know how long I'm supposed to make it. Like, should it be an hour? Should it be an hour and 15 minutes?
Okay.
Um, I have an intake form, um, very thorough. And do I have them fill it out before the session or do we go through everything in the session? I mean, I feel like that could go both ways. Like, I can send the intake form, they can fill it out, and we can review it in the session,
Mhm.
figure out goals, how we can work together. Um, Or, some people may not fill it out and then we just go through and that's what's going to take up the whole time. Um, you know, is that okay?
Mm.
I mean, I think about myself and I've gone to different therapy sessions. And I find that like the first 3 sessions are just them gathering information. And that's what I kind of wonder is like, do I think of my program, if you will, as like like therapy sessions? Like there isn't like a, hey, this is 6 months. In the first month we do this, in the second month we do that, in the third month we do this. Do I just kind of go with what the client needs, or do I cap it at a 6-month program, if you will? I
Mhm.
think that's where I'm getting a little bit confused because, of course, I see what other dietitians are doing. And I think maybe my goal eventually will be to provide a program. Maybe. You
Yep.
see, I'm a little bit just like all over the show with not having the structure, I guess, is where I'm
Mm.
feeling a little like insecure is
Yeah.
I guess it's like, is it okay for me to do an initial gather information, set some goals, and then the next visit, is it a half an hour? And then do we slowly work through the goals that she has? And however long it takes is how long it
Maybe.
takes. And, I've listened to some of your other podcasts, and I think perhaps that is the way to start. And then seeing if I have client retention based on my approach to like, okay, I must be doing something right if I'm able to ha- you know, retain these clients and I'm getting referrals by word of mouth.
Yeah.
And then if I'm not, then I turn back to you and I join your program.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Absolutely. So, it sounds I kinda like 2 things I'm hearing is one is, like, this you've been a dietitian for 15 years, and most of your career has been an outpatient. You know what you're doing. So, it's just transferring what sessions you feel like have been the most effective over the past 15 years with time, length, and structure, the type of clients who have felt the most empowered leaving your sessions have come back, you're doing something right there. And so how do you take those skills and those knowledge and transfer it to your practice now? The kind of double-edged sword of having your own practice is you can do whatever you want, however you want, and there's no rules that you gotta follow, especially if you're not accepting insurance. You
right.
can you like, the world is your oyster. When you accept insurance, there are more time constraints, there's more kind of structure that you have to have documentation-wise, but when you're private pay, I mean, you just need a, like, consent form and some HIPAA stuff signed, and then you're good to go. Um so it sounds like that's the piece where you're struggling where, like, you have this experience, but how do you translate it without being told what to do, especially when you transition from being an employee to being a boss? I started my first practice back in 2019, and I had 2 years of experience as a dietitian in the inpatient setting.
Mhm.
I'd really had never done outpatient, and I don't think I took a course or anything, I just kinda went with what felt right. When I first started, I did every session for 1 hour.
Mhm.
As I evolved, and realized with insurance, you collect more money per unit when you bill the initial session versus when you bill a follow-up. So you leave money on the table because that's the only time you can bill for that high of reimbursement. So I like to do longer sessions to capture that, as well as intakes take me 75 to 90 minutes. So it took me at least 3 years to recognize, "Oh, I need more time with initials." So
Got it.
I didn't have it figured out when I first started, but I realized over time and with experience, I need more time doing it. I like being with people a little bit longer the first session, otherwise I don't get to everything. And 3, I'm reimbursed more when I'm there longer. So I think kind of the first thing is knowing how you start sessions and structures and time. you don't have to stay there forever. You can adjust. The cool thing about being your own boss, this week you could do 60 minutes, next week you can do 75. You realize 75 don't work, you go back to 60. And so a lot of having a private practice and being your own boss is pivoting based on what's working and what's not working. So I think for initials, you kind of have this range where I see one of the dietitians I coach is a functional dietitian. She's a functional nutrition practice where they're much more thorough in their intake, and they do 2-hour initials.
Wow.
And then we see, kind of the telehealth companies that standardize at 53 minutes for everything. So their initials, so there's this range between like an hour and 2 hours for initials. So I would kind of see like with your experience in outpatient, like how long have you been meeting with people for? Has that time felt too short, just right? Like, how do you want to do it now that you get to make the rules?
Right, and that's a good way of looking at it. I mean, I can tell you in the settings I've been in, it's been like 30 minutes, and so of course we don't get anywhere near where we have to.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I also think that the system is a little bit, we know the healthcare system, people don't always come back, they don't follow up, or it's not covered, or
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. So it's a little bit hard for me to gauge in that sense. I guess when I would sit back and be like, this is just not enough time, that kind of makes me think about like, okay, well, what is enough time?
Right.
So with that said, I guess then I get a little bit hesitant to because I have to tell, right, when someone calls me for like a discovery call, they'll be like, well, how long are the sessions? And, do I start out with 75 minutes to make sure I have enough time and see how that goes? That's It feels like I find myself kind of be like, well, it might be an hour, it might be an hour and 15 minutes. And that's just not, I don't think that's professional.
I do
As-
that.
Oh, you do?
I say it's gonna be between 60 and 75 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
I'm
see,
like,
like,
"Okay, cool."
yeah. Great.
So you
I'm
can
going to
do
write
that.
that down.
Yeah. So I would say, if you're used to 30 minutes, in private practice, I have never seen a dietitian offering 30 minutes.
No, I mean, that's absurd.
That's much more of like an outpatient clinical, more larger business that would do 30. So I'd say at minimum an hour.
Mhm.
Um, and if you want to kind of give yourself some wiggle room, schedule it for 75 minutes, tell client between 60 and 75. And then as you start doing initials, if you 75 when I ran a group practice, we initially did all initials for 90 minutes, and we realized that some people could not get to 90 minutes, so we trained them on how to dive deeper into the initial, different questions to ask, different educations to go through, how to set goal setting, more of like outpatient counseling skills.
Mhm.
And some were really great dietitians and were like, "I don't need 90 minutes." And so again, it kinda evolved over time where we started allowing dietitians to choose, do you want 60, 75, or 90? And so everyone can kinda be personalized. So I'd say don't worry about choosing the perfect time and being stuck to it. Just choose a place to start and knowing after you get some initials under your belt, you'll notice you want more time, you want less time, or that's the exact amount of time.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I guess I just needed permission to be told that it's okay to have a range.
And, again, the double-edged sword about having a solo private practice and being your own boss is no one's going to tell you what you have to do, and that's one thing that I really love about business coaching is working with people similar to you who are, like, just starting and kinda need that, like, permission or accountability or someone who's, like, been there, done that to be like, "Anna, go. You're good. Just do it."
Right. Yes, exactly. Right. That's the structure of working in like a hospital setting or a clinic is like it's everything is kind of you get the outline, right? And then you do your part, which is, helping people. Um your schedule is made for you, everything is kind of laid out. And so when I take it into my own hands, I get a little, yeah, like I just need that permission and structure, I guess, if
Yeah.
you will. Um, so yeah. Okay. I feel good about that.
So it's kind of part one with time. With follow ups, I like doing an hour
Mhm.
follow up. I also really like to compare. It sounds like you go to a therapist
Yes.
for like so replicating like what you like in those therapy sessions in terms of time, most therapists always do, 45 to
Right.
60 minutes. Again, most dietitians do an hour follow-up. I see some people do 30 minutes, but I think an hour is like the sweet spot for a follow-up unless you're seeing someone like every single week for like accountability, you could do 30 minutes.
Right.
But I think 60 is a good one to standardize for follow-ups.
Okay. So yeah, that's kind of a tag along question is, and I think I'm going to answer it while I ask it is,
Uh-huh.
how do you know when to schedule the follow up? But I think that's very individualized and based on their goals, you kind of go from there. Um, because I think some people will want accountability, and I think that it doesn't take that much long to check in.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm assuming that is something I will organically figure out as I'm in the session or with more experience.
In outpatient, generally, I see for follow-ups 60 minutes every 1 to 4 weeks.
Got it.
Um, Sometimes when people are starting out, you'll start at uh, a sooner frequency, maybe weekly, biweekly, and as someone kinda reaches their goals and has less to talk about, it can move to that, like, 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. It also is depending what's going on. Um, you know, if it's a more yeah, there's so many factors that it can kinda depend on, but I I generally start people out at 1 to 2 weeks, and then push them to 2 to 4 weeks.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and then I guess as far as how much to charge, should I think of it as like in 15-minute increments? Like because I find because as we're talking, I feel like the time could be changing. Like, after every first it's every week and then it's every 2 weeks, and maybe they just need to check in. Maybe it's literally 15-minute check-in, and of course, I want to charge for that.
Mhm,
So I'm wondering if I figure out how much a 15-minute is worth and then use that as my guide to, like, times 4 if it's an hour, times 5 if it's an hour and 15, or times 1 if it's just 15-minute check-in.
mhm. Absolutely. A couple different ways to go. Again, because you're on your own boss, you can
Right.
charge however, wherever you want, but it's great to have a understanding how you got to that number. So the first thing is, doing research in your area and seeing what are other outpatient private practice dietitians charging for an hour of their
Mhm.
time. Have you done that already?
So I have I should do more thorough uh,
Okay.
dive in, but I mean, I think the highest I saw was like 280, and they do take insurance. And then when I actually, it turns out one of my friends works for that company, so
Uh-huh.
I reached out to her, and I was like, "Wow, you guys charge so much." And they're like, "Yeah, we were able to get reimbursed more with our insurance or whatever their contract was." And again, I'm not taking insurance, so I found that could be a goal I have, but
Um,
and I also think a lot of people in my area, and again, I should probably do more research, are undercharging.
280 is a lot.
280 is a lot. Yeah, no, I don't think
Yeah.
that that is, you know, what maybe whatever when I'm like, superstar at this. But I also find that some people are charging less than 100, and I think that that's not enough. I think we need to, I think there's um, within our profession, I think people hesitate to charge maybe what they're worth sometimes. I definitely do, because once again, I want someone to walk away and be like, yeah, that was worth X amount of money.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think I need to just do a little bit more research and see.
I would get an Excel or a Google Sheet or some sort of Excel document, and write down the practice name or the individual person's name, how much they charge per hour. Sometimes people will charge a different rate for an initial versus a follow-up, so you may have kinda 2 columns there, and then how many years of experience, if they have advanced credentials, and what their specialty is. Because you can charge more than someone with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years experience. You have
Right.
15 years experience. You should be able to charge more than someone with no credentials because you have these advanced credentials. Um, you probably can't charge as much as someone who's the owner of a group practice who's been doing outpatient private practice for years, or someone who has more credentials than you.
Right.
So I started my second private practice back in May of 2024, I want to say. And I switched from being insurance based to private pay. So, in order to determine my rate, I at the time was specializing specifically in eating disorders, and I have my CEDSC, which is an advanced eating
Yes.
disorder credential for
Oh,
supervision.
yeah.
It's kind of like your credentials, but all the
They're all
letters are
different.
just flip
I was
flop.
like, wait, is that the one I have? I think I
Yeah.
have the same one, but no.
And so I looked at a lot of private practices in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and what eating disorder dietitians were charging based on if they had that credential and their years of experience.
Okay.
Um, I ended up looking at a lot of eating disorder practices, what the group owner was charging who was a SED-C, which is very similar to my experience level. And so I kinda benchmarked myself against them and put myself in a similar bucket of what they were charging, because 'cause I'm like, "We have similar years of experience, skills," kinda being the owner. And so in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I landed on about $160 per hour.
Okay.
Um, I feel like the normal range for self-pay private practice dietitians ranges from, like, 120 to 250 per
Mhm.
hour. Lower for less years of experience, higher for more years of experience, more specialties.
Got it.
Because you're virtual, so
Yes.
you're kinda competing with a lot of places. So
Yeah.
you may wanna see, what Faye, Nourish, Berry Street are charging because they're kinda your competitors in this
Right.
virtual space. However, if a lot of your marketing is happening within your city, you're actually competing with local dietitians or local dietitians who are, virtual.
Right. Okay.
So
Got
I'd
it.
say that's kinda one homework thing, is, like, really benchmark and see where you're at, and then, kind of find the middle ground and just choose a number.
Okay.
And knowing you can choose the number and you can change it. You can
Right.
make it less, you can make it more. After my so when I first started, I charged 160 for nutrition counseling, and then I charged 180 for business coaching.
Okay.
I got full with business coaching, and so I raised my rate. So then I went from 180 to 200.
Got it.
And so you can, not that you have to start low, but if you start somewhere and then you fill up your schedule, or you realize that you're undercharging, you can increase your rate. But if we take the number 160, if
Mhm.
you divide it by 4 to get the 15-minute rate, it's 40 bucks.
Right.
And so then what I did is I did 75-minute initials, and so it was 200 for an initial and 160 for a follow-up just based on the time.
Got it.
If I had an eating disorder client that was 90 minutes, then it'd be what's that, 240.
Okay.
So I personally, didn't make my initial rate higher, just because that session was longer. There's not a right or wrong way to do it, but you'll see people charge more for an initial
Right.
because it's gonna take you more prep time.
Right.
I decided not to do that just to keep the numbers really easy for me.
Got it. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the prep time that just came to me is, I think that based on my previous experience, there will be handouts that will have to be made. I mean, granted, I can reuse them, but I
Mhm.
feel like there is going to be more prep time, especially in that initial, you know, um, influx, I guess, of clients. And um, just something for me to think about that popped up when you were talking about that.
Yeah, and, that'll be, you're building your resource, your library of resources, and so you don't really wanna pass down the fact that you have to create a handout on fiber to the client because that's
Right.
not their fault you don't have that
Right.
yet.
Right. Okay.
So that'll be something where, like, your first year of seeing clients, every time you see a client, you may realize that you need a handout and you have to buy it from someone, you have to create it, you have to find it online, and that's just kinda part of the process, but what won't change is that time you're gonna take to review their information before.
Got it.
So you can
Okay.
also look at how long it takes you to look up stuff before and then add that rate into it.
Okay. Research. Got it. Okay.
So
Um,
that's time. The other thing I heard you talk about is the kind of the session structure and how to do the
yeah.
intake form. What I have found to be the most effective is having clients fill out all of their forms before the appointment. So
Mhm.
the intake form, any sort of consent that they're signing,
Right.
have them fill that before so you're able to review it before, be prepared for the session, and not get hit with something you don't know what it is.
Right. Right.
Um, and so I always like that to be done before. If a client doesn't have it done, then I'll have them at least get the consent form signed, and then their initial will just kinda go through the intake form.
Okay.
Um, but so how I have trained dietitians to do intakes is kind of view it as like part 1 and part 2 of the initial session.
Mhm.
Part 1 takes, 30 to 60 minutes, where you're figuring out where have they been, where they are, and where they wanna be. So what was their reason for visit, reviewing their medical history, labs, medications, food log, their kinda relationship with food story, what foods they don't like, safe foods, fear foods, any food rules they have, and then going into weight, where their weight's been, what their lowest weight's been, what their highest weight been, what their set point could be, and, kinda getting that bird's eye view of, like, what's their nutrition story.
Mhm.
A lot of times I have their nutrition assessment, and we're going through it and, like, double checking everything and talking in more detail about everything. And then we'll go through, like, GI, sleep, energy, if anyone else is on their, like, treatment healthcare team.
Mhm.
And so then that's kind of part 1 where you're just getting all the information and kinda getting up to speed. The reason why I don't like doing 60-minute appointments is then we get all that, and it's like, "Oh, we're out of time. Bye, see you next week," and they don't leave with anything. So then
Right. Mhm.
that part 2 is I'll say, "Hey, based on everything we talked about, this kind of part 2 will make a plan." So based on everything you shared, we may do some education, we
Mhm.
may set some goals, we may not do either of those, but talk about where we're gonna go with everything.
Mhm.
And so then that part 2 can be, 15 to 30 minutes where you're diving into 1 or 2 things education, you're setting 1 to 3 goals, or you're just saying, "Hey, based on all of this, next time we should work on ABCD." And then you
Got
set the follow-up.
it.
I have found that structure and that flow to be pretty helpful. I have, in my I think it's in my program or a master class, I have kind of a handout that walks through all of that. So I'll send that to you after on like session structure, like how I recommend structures sessions to go. And again, you can start there and then you can adapt based on what works and what doesn't work. But I think you got to trust yourself knowing like you know how to do an initial. Just for you it's going to be now you have more time. So you don't have to crank through things as fast. You can spend more time in certain areas or you can get to more stuff.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Um, yeah, right.
And then with the structure for the follow-ups, tends to be what's been going on since we met
Right.
last time, like, generally, I just like, "Hey, how have things been in the past week, 2 weeks, months?" And then that open-ended question lends itself for the client to tell you what's been going on and where they wanna do. If you get a short one-word answer or 1 or 2 sentences that's kinda ends there, I may ask, like, what were some barriers or challenges with eating over the past XYZ timeframe? What were some wins or things
Mhm.
that went well? Or you can go through their goals. "Hey, we set 3 goals last time. How did 1 go? How
Right.
did 2 go? How did 3 go?" So usually that simple structure on how you've been, what worked, what didn't work, where you at with goals can fill up the whole
Right.
hour.
Right. And it's very familiar to me because
Mhm.
that is what I've been doing um in the clinic world. I just don't know why I'm hesitating. I mean, I do know why, but I think I just need to do it. I think it just, and I think it will naturally flow like it has the last, 15 years
Yeah.
of, seeing patients and follow-ups. So, yeah, I just need to do it. It's, I feel
I
like
agree.
I'm getting a
I
push
agree.
here to just
Yeah.
like, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
and the
mhm.
other thing that you talked about was, a program.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about that right now. I would starting with nutrition counseling and offering sessions, and then see as a couple weeks or months go by, if you notice all your clients are following this flow and you didn't even realize that you came up with this thing where you focus on this the first session, this the second, or this month 1, this month 2, you may naturally create a program and realize, "Hey, this way I'm doing things really works. I'm going to market a 6-month program, kinda calculate how many sessions that would be, and now this 6-month program is X number of dollars because it has this many sessions, and here's the flow."
Got it.
So that program will likely come later through just experience of seeing what's working and what's not working, or you may notice all of your clients are asking for the same thing.
Right.
Maybe they're all feeling alone in their perimenopause journey and like no one gets them, and you create a support group.
Mm,
Maybe all of them are asking for recipes and meal plans. And so you create a group class on meal plans or you create a course or handout that they purchase. So the program's likely gonna come out of experience. I think it'd be really hard to launch a private practice without having private practice experience, creating a program and assuming people want this product.
right. Right. That makes sense. And that was kind of, what I was feeling um like internally is like, let's start and then let me see what people need.
Mhm, and when
Because
you
it is like overwhelming to think about, like I'm just gonna be guessing to make a
yeah,
program, and that's a lot
yeah,
of, effort and work, and what if it doesn't land? And then
yeah, and with doing a program, a lot of times you'll wanna survey your clients. So you're gonna need enough clients to say, "Hey, here's this thing I'm thinking of providing. Would you want this? What would you want in it? How much would you pay for it?"
Mhm.
And then you get that data, and you say, "Okay, I'm gonna launch this program based on what my client said they wanted, and I'm gonna run a pilot."
Right.
So it's gonna be free, reduced cost, reduced time. If the pilot works, then you fully launch it.
Got it.
And
Yeah,
you can
that makes
also look
sense.
and see, like, what are other programs that people are running. That's the same way that I started the Dietitian Business Network program, where I got enough clients. I kept hearing the same problems with everyone. So I sent out a survey. What would you want? How often would you want to meet? How much would you spend for it? And then I created exactly what people said they wanted. And then I
Mhm.
launched a pilot where it was reduced cost. The pilot worked, and so then I launched it again.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah,
'Cause
we'll put that on the back burner.
yeah, yeah. Um, awesome. So I think that takes care of your session structure. The other thing that you said that was kinda holding you back was the website.
Mhm.
I looked through your website this morning, and I think it looks great. Like, everything's there. I skimmed through not every page, but your homepage, your about page, and I didn't see any grammatical errors.
Okay,
I mean,
great.
I didn't read every single line, but your clients aren't gonna read people skim websites.
That's true.
So
That's
how your website is right now, I'd say launch it.
okay,
Like, your
great.
website if you have an error in your website with a grammatical error, like, it's not a big deal. You fix it.
Right,
But it
right,
but with how your website looks like, I mean, you have an FAQ section, you have testimonials, um, you have your approach written out, you have what it looks like to work with you have an about page, you have a contact us. Like, you don't need anything else. The
right.
like, everything is there.
Okay. I just needed that reassurance.
Yeah. So, you got your structure, you got the website, um, it is anything holding you back? Like, do you have another full-time job? Did you leave your full-time job? Is this gonna be your side hustle, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so I left my job, um, and real I have 3 little kids, so my focus is that, and this is kind of like a side hustle.
Uh-huh.
So, I know that I'm very lucky to be able to just leave my job, my full-time
Mhm.
job, and kinda have this freedom to develop my private practice. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at in that sense.
Mhm.
I the reason why I wanted to start a private practice is to have that freedom for my kids,
Yeah.
um, because I am like the default parent, right? So if it's like parent teacher conference, it's me. If it's I'm mom Uber, I drive them
Mhm.
everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so to have that flexibility and then still be able to hold on to my professional life is kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah. And that's where I see a lot of people decide they wanna go into private practice or decide to be a group practice owner is to get that freedom and get that flexibility. And that's why I love private practice so much and working for myself so much is you can do what you want, when you want, how you want. And if you are picking up your kids at school at 3 o'clock, you can schedule appointments till 2.
Right.
And if you have a parent teacher conference, you can move your clients around. Obviously, we don't want to move them around too much
Right.
and honor those appointment times, but there's a lot of freedom that you get for it. And that freedom is also another like double-edged sword where like because you can do anything you want, you're not forced to kind of hit these deadlines where there's a lot of accountability and motivation to get your practice up and running. Because just because you launch your website and tell people you have a business doesn't mean clients are just gonna flood through
Right.
the doors. So it
Right.
ends up being, quite quite a bit of work to get things up and going. So then there's kind of the marketing piece and like, okay, how are we gonna market? How are we gonna network? How are we gonna get your name out there? What that looks like.
Right. Yeah. I think I mentioned earlier, like I've been networking with like some of the parents are doctors and my daughter's class. So I'm like, oh hi, like I'm a dietitian. Do you see women in their 40s?
Wow.
And then, just one stands out specifically and she's like, that's all I see. She's like, I and they need your
Uh,
help. And I'm like, great. She's like, give me your card. I'm like, soon. you know.
yeah,
So I think the marketing piece, I'm going to continue networking that way and see what happens with that. Um, I think again, just starting and then reevaluating,
yeah, yeah.
just not, I guess, yeah, with the structure and accountability and, all of that really resonates because I've been in, again, the workforce, if you will, with all that structure. And now it's a
Mm.
lot of freedom. And now it's like I'm overthinking everything. And, you know, when I remember starting new jobs and it's like, okay, here's your training for a week. Okay, now your turn. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
and now it's like, oh, I have like all this time to train, and it's
yeah,
like let's go.
yeah, yeah, and I think you mentioned that you're in a perimenopause course as well right now.
Yes.
Is that the one by Joyce?
Yes. Oh
Okay,
my
that's
gosh,
what I was
it's so
thinking.
good. Yes.
She's phenomenal. I don't know if you heard the podcast that I did with her, a little bit back, but we did a podcast together, but if you're looking for more nutrition counseling, motivational interviewing skills, I mean, she's queen bee, the person that you go to if you wanna enhance your outpatient counseling. So anytime I kinda there's kind of this connective. I feel like there's, Amy Plano's the go-to
Right.
for insurance. Joyce is the go-to for nutrition counseling skills. And not that I'm the go-to, but then I'm kind of like more of like the business coaching, like infrastructure and kind of that part. So you have
Right.
so many different resources available to make sure that you are comfortable and confident. But I think for you, it's not getting all this information, but just starting to go and push the ball forward and getting information along the way and knowing you could get that information from paying someone or taking a course, having a coach, but the best way you're gonna learn is just getting started and seeing how things work and what works and what doesn't work.
Right. Right. I mean, I think about when I, first started in a weight management clinic and not really having that experience. And then as I would go along, 2 years in or 3 years in, it's like, I have so much information that I've gathered from seeing all these patients that I am so confident in counseling this specific population. And I think that came with doing,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
and you just reminded me of that. I kind of forgot that that is how I got very skilled in that position, is just doing it and gathering info. And it's okay to say I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So yeah, I think that that was a good reminder in that.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you. We only have a couple minutes left. This hour flew by with you. Is there any other kind of last minute questions or things that you wanna ask or talk about before we wrap up?
Let me look at my little list.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I think we hit on kind of everything that I wanted us to discuss and um kind of walk away with. So I appreciate that so much. I think you've really given me that push to just do it. So thank you for that. And
No.
maybe I'll just email my website people and be like, "Hey, we're launching."
Yeah.
Forget it. Forget I think I pushed it to August because you know.
You're like,
And I'm like, okay, let me circle back. They probably are like, well, this girl.
I I mean, not to push you, but I'd be like, end a day to day. Like, stretch like, stretch goal today, but, like, by end of the week,
Okay.
for sure. There's not even, like, a week worth of work to do, and again,
Right.
you can launch it, it go live, and then make the edits later.
Right.
I still
Exactly.
catch errors on my website.
Right, and, like, I
And it's
see them on professional websites. I see errors, and I'm like, "What it's fine, like, we're
yeah,
human, I guess."
yeah.
So
Well, if our fellow dietitians want to follow your business journey along, once things are live, where can people find you and support you?
that see, this is the question, right? So I don't have anything live. Like I am ha- I don't like social media, so I don't have a handle. And I swear I tried to make a few different profiles, and I just I
Yeah.
I just can't do it. Um, so really, it's going to be my website that will launch
Would
by the end of this week, I hope, and
Oh,
that's astrononutrition.com.
love it. All right. Well, I'm excited to check out your website, hopefully later today or this week.
Yes.
But otherwise, it was so fun talking to you, and I'm so excited for you and your practice and what's to come. And I think you got a lot of really cool things in front of you. You just need someone to give you a push, and then you'll get there.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that we've accomplished in this session.
Yeah, love it. Okay, well, I will hopefully talk to you later, and it was great learning about you and your business.
Thank you, Maggie.